Paroh, thank you for tuning. Irina back in the house. Got a great conversation for you guys today. Brilliant isolation, the gift and the curse of your genius. First of all, I want everybody to know that there is a genius inside of you. Don't doubt yourself. Just find it and embrace it. Everybody's genius is different. What's yours? If you know up front, put it in the comments below. Irina, you got some questions today, right?
I do, because that right away raises up a question. You saying that everybody is a genius. And
Okay.
the definition of genius is exceptional performance. It's something out of the ordinary. It's not ordinary. And me living my whole life thinking I'm ordinary and seeing people that are not ordinary, I know what genius is like. I
Okay.
mean, like, if you look in the history too, Isaac Newton, people who have delivered a lot, Galileo Galilei, people who performed a lot over many years, who studied something and achieved something, regardless of social pressure, regardless of rejection, regardless of people not understanding them, who went beyond that and proved that, okay, that's a genius, besides another person who's just a psychopath.
Okay. So we got the overachiever versus the psychopath. You got the clash between extraordinary when you feel ordinary, right? What is the what is your question with it? From
Why do you say that genius is everybody, or everybody has a genius?
so when you look at the etymology of the word genius, which I'm great load right now for us, it's a guardian spirit, right? But let's go before we even get that technical with it. Let's just go to the general what people use the word genius for, right? Let's do you would you agree that we could substitute the word genius with expert to some degree?
I would disagree with that, because you can be an expert in some field but not a genius.
Okay. The application is considerable to the word expert, which is exactly proving the point of how you can be a genius in X, while somebody else may not be a genius in that, but may be a genius in something else. So we place that word out, expert or innovative, right? Substitute the word genius with anything of that magnitude or caliber, and you can start to see how people have spikes and then people have lows if we were to give them categories. So what happens is when you look at the spectrum of people, then this person will have areas where they're superior in, right, or strive in, right, compared to themselves and others around them. So they would appear to be of genius mind and nature in that category, right?
Like a genius in mathematics and genius in, I would say, public relations or communications.
Exactly. So that difference is a great example because the person in the opposite fields is not going to understand on a level or comprehend the technicalities of the other person's field. So the mathematics person is not going to may not be comprehending public relations methodologies and practices, right? So the creative aspect, by the time you implement that of either one when looking at each other, makes it appear to be genius from their perspective. But when we go to the etymology of genius, it's actually guardian spirit, right? So inclination, wit, and talent. So what we can do, and we see here that the natural or the meaning of a person's endowed with a natural ability or talent appeared in 1649, so it's much more recent. So we just look at, even if you don't want to go guardian spiritish, which is interesting because hey, Pasha's talked about snatching souls out, right? So we got invoking and evoking opportunities here, but just look at inclination, wit, and talent. So everybody can naturally agree that they have a talent, right? Some wit, and everybody feels like they have inclination. So why do we doubt ourselves from being accepting our own geniuses simply because it's not the same genius as someone else in most cases?
I have an answer to that. I feel
Yes.
like natural ability or talent is not good enough to be counted as a genius because everybody has it. And it feels like genius is something extraordinary. The natural ability that is extraordinary, that is not common among people.
So isn't that the success of gaslighting in our population, to make one feel less than themselves, less than oneself? Isn't that, like, piggyback off of our last conversation with schools, higher learning? Isn't that what makes people go to school instead of saying I could figure this out on my own? And in society, the same thing, saying, hey, you need to go to school because we don't think that you could watch a YouTube video and learn it yourself or read a book, right? So isn't that is that, or can we agree that that's the success of gaslighting 101?
If you believe of yourself less than a genius, I'm gonna give it up. Yes, I would say that's believing in less than what we are ourselves.
Okay. So even in a leadership application, right, you're going to be dealing with team members that have different strengths and weaknesses, correct? Can the weakest one come up with a brilliant idea?
They can.
So in that moment, wasn't that an act of genius that might have catapulted the project to success when it was looking at failure? Right?
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So we can accept that everybody has their genius. And the thing is, don't get it twisted. Someone's genius may be playing Fortnite. You know what I mean? Like, that literally may be what they're a genius at. And then they're on YouTube and Twitch with 5 million followers making $100,000 a month because they're that fucking good at the video game. You know what I'm saying? So what happens is, the moment we start thinking that someone else can't be, we lose sight of what their potential is. Their potential value is lost. Once we embrace that everybody has a genius, now we look at everybody as an opportunity to discover what the genius is in them, and then let's see how I can add value to the community for the success of the community.
You don't distinguish, though, the difference between the talent or the genius. For the guy who is the weakest guy in the room and who comes up with a great idea and saves the company from facing the imminent loss, back onto the track to the victory,
Mhm.
that is, it's less of a talent, more of something that the person hasn't revealed, that their intelligence that is exceptional intelligence when it comes out at the right time, at the right place. And that's less of a talent, less of a natural ability. That's more of a spark of, I would say, the spirit and genius. Between the genius and the talent and the natural ability and expertise, there is a difference.
So is a athlete, right? Maybe let's compare it to being an athlete. So an athlete may be born and have what appears to be extraordinary athletic talent, right? They take that and they refine it, they work on it, they go skills training, they do this, they develop it. The same way a person with that was born with maybe not the same level of natural talent can still work on their craft, their game, their trade, become refined, still be a pro, maybe even be better than the person statistic wise that had the higher ranking, higher natural talent, etc. Right? So what we've identified is that talent is a latent intangible in many applications that is not always present and can always be developed, right? From different starting points.
Yeah.
So this is how we all have the potential to reach genius level ability in what brings us joy. Right? Now, now we can get into the underpinning of the title of the conversation, right? Because now you can get into isolation while you're sharpening that craft, right? You're when you're working on just go back to college, right? Let's just look at that for example. What happens when people go to college? They like many of them go away to college. You have to leave. You are considered to be in isolation from everything you used to know, like, trust, enjoy, whatever, to go and become better, right? So just the aspect of growing the intelligence to a genius level may actually form isolation to begin with. Talk about that.
For the isolation, my thought about it was more in because the talent and the genius is going into a certain direction that is other than what most people go through. That by itself builds the isolation because and the level of intelligence is on a different level. So there becomes some disconnect, not only physical disconnect of the person going away to college. Everybody who goes to college gets some disconnect and isolation from their parents, their peers, from somebody. I mean, we graduate high school, we separate from high school friends and we go into different ways. And there's some sort of isolation. But isolation from intelligence perspective is more on the interest base or understanding base. Because somebody who is very intelligent, for example, you at 3 years old, and then other people, they have different interests and different level of intelligence, and it becomes a disconnect to be able to connect and be friends and be engaged into a conversation with somebody who has a different level of intelligence, different level of understanding, different interests. It's challenging to communicate with people that are so drastically different.
I think I think that's a great point that you bring up there that causes people to wind up in isolation and also want to isolate people from the gen pop, right? Because like, man, this guy's fatiguing me every time we talk. It's like I get fried. I'm trying to just relax and chill. I gotta go to work tomorrow. This is not, you know what I mean? So here's the quote though. The closer you get to where you see yourself going in life, the more the people around you become what you expect. So let's look at the situation. You're born, you go home with your parents to a neighborhood. You didn't pick that neighborhood. So you didn't pick the people that's your neighbors, right? So that means that chances are they're not all wanting to arrive at the same destination in 10 years as you are working so diligently to get to, that you are molding yourself into becoming. So you have different appreciations, different expectations, different values. The same way when you go to the workplace, that's not yours. You know what I mean? I mean that you work there, but it's not like your company. You didn't pick your coworkers. right? So you're in there trying to you're having fun discussing philosophical topics and whatever, and they're like, oh my god, you know what I mean? The the separation occurs, right? Because they feel like they're not enjoying themselves around you because they don't value the intelligence. So you may value it because that's part of your goal, your walk. So that's the underlying thing there is the closer we get to where we see ourselves going, the more the people around us become what we expect. Does that help?
I definitely agree with it. My first best friend was the one I grew up with because my aunt and my mom, they had us both together. Well, the aunt was babysitting the girl, and I was my mom's daughter. So we got together because of my aunt and my mom. I
Hmm.
didn't pick her, but we hung around for most of our childhood, right until I moved over to America.
Hmm.
And that's when my mindset started to shift. Her mindset started to shift, and when we talked occasionally, the way she would talk would be with a lot of profanity. And I can't handle a lot of it. I can filter a little bit, but not a lot. I said, hey, hold on, stop. I can't. So if you think of being able to tolerate profanity and talk in that as a genius, then she was too genius for me, and I had to stop it. And she wouldn't stop, so I had to cut her off. And that's saddening for me because we've been friends for such a long time, and we never had. I mean, we did have some issues, but we figured it out by dragging each other by the hair. But now that there's distance between us, we can't really do that. And I had to just disconnect and cut off that relationship, so I can see that the things that we replaced that they become different because of the values that we acquire through the years and through the time that we become more or different way of intelligence rather than growing up in that same environment.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's good that you brought that up because I was going to show this list real quick. And right here on there is linguistic intelligence, right? So it says here with children, this type of intelligence or skill that preferences for having activities such as reading, talking, telling stories, jokes, writing poems, learning languages, and playing words. So it's a common thing with some of those statistics, right? We know statistics can be used to prove anything you want, but there's a great amount of statistics that show that the higher intellect normally have the pottier mouth, right? And it's really because we're just focused on the infinity of the subject matter so much that the variables don't matter, right? To us, it's the infinity of the equation. So when you get political and stuff like that, or politically correct and stuff, and public appearances and personas, they might want to be concerned about that. They might feel like if they use the F word, that they might lose a deal or a contract opportunity. But the reality is, chances are behind the scenes that same party that you worry about losing the deal from uses the word. So what happens when people stop gaslighting each other and just admit that, hey, it's a fucking word. Let's use it, right? So to drive it home and stop being, like that. Now, not to say on your case, but if that's your preference, then that's cool. Now you distance yourself because you didn't have the appreciation for that's as the art form or theatrical element of conversation. You wanted to be in a more refined space. That's where you went to, and however they felt about the separation as well. So now let's run through these real quick. It's 8 of them. And of course, there's an infinity, but let's look at these top 8 or most common 8. Logical, mathematical intelligence, self-explanatory. Linguistic intelligence, like we said. Spatial intelligence, which is spatial problems such as drawing, painting, reading maps, right? Musical intelligence, bodily kinesthetic intelligence. So that's your playing sports, dancing, running, intrapersonal intelligence, setting goals, focusing on achieving them, understanding their feelings. Interpersonal, did I say that wrong? Intrapersonal, okay, interpersonal. So, and then naturalistic, which is your hiking, caring for animals, learning about nature. So if you look at that, right? those 8 intelligences kind of breaks down the workforce into 8 categories, right?
I wouldn't say 8 categories because people can have more than one. Like, oh, I'm not good at one. I'm
Yeah,
more good at the other. I'm better at the other. They can have multiple.
definitely can have multiple. That's not to be discounted. But we can almost pick any job and it fits into and or overlap or can be, let's just say put like this. Almost any would you agree that any job almost virtually can be defined by a combination of these 8 intelligences?
That yeah,
Okay. So now with that on the table, we've identified the fact that those intelligences are what people can become genius at, right? So if somebody is better at relationships than the other person, right? They do better generally in sales than the person that don't want to talk to nobody. You know what I mean? Unless you're talking about IT geniuses that go in and create super high gravity funnels or something, right? You see what I'm saying? So now you get to measure each other's genius in comparison to the other. And that's what things like the disc assessment does.
I'm wondering what's Fortnite. It's probably like
Fortnite,
aesthetic intelligence and some mathematical one and some
yep, it's spatial, kinetic. That's a good question. Let me pull it back up here so we can look at it
that's like a
together.
mixture of all of them. Like some of them.
So it's definitely it's probably some naturalistic, right?
I
Elements.
don't know.
They're not,
Camping, hiking, I don't know. They're like sitting at home. They're like loners.
but on the screen they're hiking through woods and terrain with guns and stuff. So
True.
technically, it's
Do you
it's
think
a
they would
little
like
element.
it in life? They might like it in real life too.
Absolutely,
Paintball.
absolutely. And the thing about video games is it actually simulates to the brain. There's no difference in the experience. Just like if you think about running down the block, your brain actually fires the same neurons as it would be, or the neural connections as if you really ran. So to the brain, the thought is no different. That's the problem with not being in control of what you feed your mind, right? All right. So it's definitely got interpersonal intelligence because they're on there, connecting with others while they're doing their live streams or whatever. So it's not actually physically, um, like directly themselves body kinetics, but it is them knowing that I can only jump this far on the character with the character in the game. I need to. He's gonna be running as fast. I need to shoot here, right? So absolutely, we could go through this.
Kinetic, that being able to move fast enough, being able to respond to things like
Mhm,
physically, that you're able to use the joystick to
mhm.
move yourself
Imitating,
somewhat.
yeah, imitating gestures or expressions. So yeah, it's all there, right? You need elements of all of them to become great in it.
I don't
And
think
then
it has the musical intelligence.
no,
Yeah.
I would not. Well, maybe no, yes, because some of them be out there playing their little playlist that they put together to make the crowd hype
Mm,
and pay attention while they playing. So
true.
some of that's in there too for some of those, right?
That's like all of them.
Video games are a great exercise. It's the difference is when we were younger, we didn't have the internet like it is now. So your parents were right when they said you're wasting your life away playing the video game because you can't make any, you know, like you could bet your friends. Like we used to play, like I used to play Madden back in the day before internet got popular, and we used to bet money on it. The most I made in one night was $275 playing video game football. You know what I mean? So
I did
you could
not play like
definitely, yeah, you could definitely, have a stream of income, but now you can actually have a career. You know what I mean? And they got leagues and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like there was no Super Mario Brother League. You know what I mean? If Nintendo was out. So
And the person looking from the outside, not doing Fortnite or not playing video games, for them, then when they're looking at what the guys with Fortnite are doing,
mhm,
they typically don't understand that how much it takes of the intelligence, how many things are involved in it. They're like, that's just a video game. Just press buttons, like so simple. And then the person in the video games looks at that person, and that person is like in a zoo feeding animals,
Yeah,
and they're thinking at them, they're just feeding animals. Like, what's up with that?
yeah.
So looking
And
from the outside, it's just that gaslighting effect of putting people down. It's just from misunderstanding of how much intelligence is involved in those different areas of expertise.
now use the video game as the variable because it can represent anything in life, right? It can represent your sports. It can represent your going to school for biology. It could represent whatever, right? So now what happens? You want to share with your quote unquote friends, family, and share that experience and what you enjoy and passion or enthusiasm for, right? Um, but they don't want to play the game with you. They're looking at you, judging you from outside like that. They're disconnected because they don't appreciate it for value. So the same way you're sitting there playing the game with yourself, but now you have the internet, so you're not by yourself. You can connect with Irina 2 time zones away, and but now to them, you still appear isolated in the house or in the relationship. You see what I'm saying? So now your relationship struggles because we're talking about number 2 bullet point, the feeling misunderstood and or alienated. So when you tell them, no, the game is great, you don't understand. It's this, it's wonderful. I get this. I get hand-eye coordination. I get thought process. I get situational awareness training. I get right. And they're like, you're acting like a little kid. You need to grow up, right? You know what I'm saying? And you're like, no, you don't get it, right? And you saw I had that conversation before, right? So, so that's the thing, and it's like that no matter what your variable is, right? To some degree, unless you have people who appreciate it. So you wind up feeling misunderstood, and then you become alienated because what you enjoy, the people around you don't appreciate, whether it's language, art, etc. Speak on that.
When I play Fortnite, my aim goes up in the air, and that's what I see, and I can't move. Talking about spatial awareness, when the aim goes up, you can't. There is no way. And that's my life. That's a challenging life.
So
Especially with the joystick. With the mouse, it's like, okay, I can kind of like avoid from going into the air, just press it down. But with a joystick, that's it. That's where it stays.
you gotta put the work in. you gotta put the you gotta put some more work in.
But it's frustrating. You get people shooting at you. It's so it's stressful.
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
afraid. It's like watching a horror movie. This is like I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die.
Now, and then how many people felt like that their first day of college? You see, it's all relatable, right? And then
And
you
for
go
me,
in.
college was easy, just because I know how to remember things shortly and pass the exams. But people, not everybody has that.
And what about from a social aspect? Because maybe you excel or this person excels in intra or interpersonal relationships, right? So they're social, they're networking, and everybody's great, they're whatever, and you're trying to just hurry back to play Fortnite because who understands me, right? Like, so
I hurried back to watch anime.
they see. So anime is another thing, right?
I missed the parties. I didn't really hang out with people. I don't know, just 2 years passed like done. I was up excited, not excited, and when not excited, let's hurry up, watch anime all day.
Hmm.
And then I went back to school and did my work, and then as little as possible, that's what I put in, so I can get out. But
So when you have highly intelligent, per my notes here, individuals, they often grapple with intense cognitive processing, heightened sensitivity, and deep awareness for complex issues. Do you feel like maybe with all of those being present in anime is why certain groups of people are drawn to it, almost to cult-like experiences, and others are like, it's just a cartoon. What are you doing, right? So even that, there's an element of genius to appreciate the elements in the anime.
Probably just because it has things that just grab you and keep you at the interest, the focus on it.
So there's another way you become isolated, right? Because now what happens when you are around people that you want to share, that you would normally want to watch it with yourself, right? At that moment, but you're with them, and now you have an impasse because they don't want to watch it. So now you can't enjoy it because they're going to be complaining, nagging, downing it. You might want to share it with them to give them an opportunity to appreciate it. Now you see, substitute that variable for anything in life, right? The isolation factor there, the feeling misunderstood. How does that look now from that angle?
Well, from back then, I was okay with like just being alone, being under the blanket, and just spending nights and days
Right.
watching. And I was okay with nobody else watching it. But now that I'm thinking about it, I would be. It would be fun to go to a Comic Con.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it for people with the same interest, and I didn't have any people with the same interest. I just didn't get a chance to.
Right. So the misconceptions, right? The imbalances in what people enjoy causes isolation, just generally speaking. So now what happens when you take that from average stuff and go to from I don't even want to say average because we're dismissing the genius potential even in saying that, right? So let me play it up for theatricals. When you change the variable from anime versus cartoons to video games versus uh, military training, right? Level training and expertise. Um, Now what happens when you go to quantum physics? When you start doing stuff like what we do, like that's part of why I enjoy doing logos and graphic designs because I enjoy the actual psychology element of it, right? And that translation of energy and manifestation in one's mental of what's important. So for me, that's a great puzzle, right? So when you start studying stuff like that, it really fucks you up, right? Because now you're learning high level psychology on a high level psychology, right? So now the conversations you would have normally had with people and that they're used to talking to other people, it don't really go the same way with you because the hardest part of having any wisdom is constantly remaining disciplined to the knowledge, right? So you're just exercising your expertise. Like, no, you can't really say that because this, that, the other, blah, 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 blah. They're like, I don't want to be around you no more, right? And all you're trying to do is be true.
Talking to some business people, and I'm seeing them in a rat wheel for the money, that they are the gear that spins the company and they can't take themselves away from it. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I don't want to be in that situation right there. And my way of finding a way out of it is to create systems that can run without me. Perpetual engine,
Mm-hmm.
perpetual machine, something that can run without you, and you just let it be, don't worry about it. And when I talk with people that, okay, we don't work for money, we work for free, they're like, that's an interesting business model, how do you get money? I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, we get donations, but we don't rely on them. Donation's good, no, donation's good too.
Yeah.
And
And
just don't understand it.
it's like now take that, right? So you see how that puts you in isolation there, even among your peers, and step out of the peers in the industry and then just talk to your family members and friends. You're talking foreign to them, right? So now what happens when you take that to the next level? You said how, hey, you see them at a company being in the rat race for quote unquote money, which hasn't existed since the 1930s because the United States slash government took it out of circulation in the 30s. So people actually believed they're making money, but there is no money. So when you hear all the conversations about how much money people making, I'm lost right there because I'm looking at insanity, right? But that's look, now take it to the level of expanding that rat race position and attitude, because attitude means position, to actually just being a part of the United States corporation, not knowing that it's a company and not actually a nation. Now imagine trying to have quote unquote friends, right? You already got your genius video game anime shit going on. You're talking about, hey, the world should be free, and now you want to tell them that you're not a citizen of the United States, you're an American. Your
You lost me.
population.
You lost me. And then you're like, okay, I'm just gonna dress up like a hippie, and then see who follows me just because I have a beard.
Yeah, let's just do the beard thing, right? It's so simple. They can connect to that.
Let's not wear the suit. Let's just wear a flashy jacket
Hey, you know,
with some gold speckles on it.
again, we're dealing with translations of energy and manifestations, right? So what people don't realize is when they put on that suit, they're putting on a product of England. It's actually a military, English military outfit is where that originated from. So if you think about evoking and invoking, see, here we go again, right? The more intelligence you have, this is why when you hear me say I'm in the top 2%, I test in the top 2%, like not trying to be bragging or anything, you know, Fernando still beat me 2 out of 3 games in chess the other day, right? I won one and I'm going to win the next one. All right. But anyway, the point of the matter is when I say I'm in the top 2%, I test in the top 2%, what I'm really articulating is it's a fucking prison, because what that means is that 98% of the population is not going to easily connect with ideas and concepts and perspectives I have without extra effort. The problem is, or the opportunity is, that I can't depend on them to appreciate the value of going the extra mile or putting in the extra effort for comprehension. So we got to do it all for them. And if you think about yourself and even Fernando, you can relate to times you had to do that in your own way, shape, or form. And that's the difference.
Okay. I can claim that everybody, or maybe almost everybody, has a place where they don't feel connected to people and they don't feel that people understand them. And typically, we meet that when we become teenagers. And when we start exploring the world, when we start thinking outside of, okay, what does my parent want? When we start having our own dreams and our own desires and our own inclinations, when we start to experience those and enact them, that's when we meet the miscommunication, because nobody wants to listen for me, nobody understands me. So many times we hear that from teenagers. You might have experienced it earlier, I guess at 3.
Well, 3rd grade. So
3rd grade. Okay, not 3-year-old. Okay,
yeah.
3rd grade. That's teenager.
No.
3rd
like
grade is
8.
what? 8? Okay,
Yeah.
8. Typically it's like 10, 12.
Really?
Okay.
No.
Yeah, and
Started.
everybody goes to it.
You started. Oh, you mean the experience that
The
starts? Okay, go ahead.
experience
Go ahead.
of becoming
Not
a
3rd grade.
teenager, trying to figure out, okay, what's my purpose in life is, because that was mine. I was probably 12 or 10 to 12 when I started thinking, okay, what's my purpose in life is, what death is, and what am I supposed to do here? Why am I here? So those questions arise. They don't arise early on. Early on, you just play in a kindergarten, have fun, enjoy life, and you're just in the present moment. And later on, that's when we start questioning. That's when our awareness of ourselves versus the world kicks in, and we separate ourselves. We're like, okay, I'm an individual and I have my own dreams and thoughts and I have my own talents and I'm different. We start to isolate ourselves when we see that we are different than everything around us, that I'm different than the plant. And that's when we experience it, some sort of isolation. And when we grow up, we try to tailor our personal self-image more to be able to connect with other people because we don't want to feel lonely. I find that with my definition of genius, so being extraordinary
Hmm.
genius, not just talented person, but extraordinary talented, is the person who, instead of trying to connect and adapt, try to, okay, take that questioning. Okay, I'm different, and take it back. And I want to be similar to the environment. I want to be similar to the people around me. Take it and run with it to how far, how much I can be different, how far I can take this down. More interested in themselves and their personal development rather than bringing back and connecting with other people. Even though connecting with other people is important, because then the genius is rejected from the society because they're so much into themselves and working on their own thing and improving their own intelligence, and then the people they don't understand.
I think I think you bring up some high value tangents for empowerment indirectly. I'm going to analyze it for you, and I'm going to show you how that actually empowers the common person. Okay, because I first of all, let me say I don't think that I'm not sure how many. I can tell you it wasn't my focus to say I'm going to work on my intelligence. Right? It wasn't thought like that. It was like,
It's
hey,
just natural.
I was like, hey, I realized that I'm not a driver. I'm a traveler for entertainment purposes. People laugh at you and they call you crazy, and family walks away from you, all kinds of stuff, right? But then when you go and win that first court case, and the judge says, hey, everything you put together was true. The way you presented your case was amazing, and I wish more Americans would come here and do this. It don't matter who left you alone. It don't matter who called you crazy anymore, because every time the people that call you crazy talk to you about something, when you actually go and talk to the experts, they co-sign with you. So what they're telling you is, hey, you spent 4 days in a mental hospital, not because something's wrong with you, but because you know stuff that the average person don't know what the hell you're talking about. And you got to be careful who you're talking to about stuff. But I'm to the point now in my life where I've had so much, that fear of, oh, the government might find out who. They already know I won court cases. I done this. I got that going. They already know who I am. There's no point in me saying I don't want them to find out anymore because I'm already on record, right? This is why Why that 7 don't have 5,000 views per video, because they censoring that shit. Nah, but look, right? Seriously, coming back to reality. Okay, let's look at it. When you said that time period in life where you start exploring the world, right, is a great opportunity to become isolated. Here's the thing. The question is, and I got 3 points here to make, and I'll give you back the floor. When do you stop exploring the world? So if we go together as a herd to this level, and we go into that exploration phase, and we go our little different ways, now, once you get to the top of that level, you can go, I'm going to keep going to the next level where other people stop, right? And then you say, oh shit, there's this whole infinity on this level, and you explore that, and then you get to that some wall in that level. You know what? I'm going through that wall, and then so every time you do that, you're now going to another level where you're gonna become isolated from potentially some percentage of what you knew to exist prior state. Right? Number 1 point. Two, separating ourselves at that point. Right? I think separation is the infancy of that exploration of intelligence, because the more my own walk, the higher you go in that level, you come back to the point of the isolation ends with we are actually all one and connected. You can't, go and build a truly off the grid place, right? I mean, yes, you can physically, you can have a solar panel, you can have your little rainwater collection, you can have your own little food, but you can't put up a fence that stops democracy from arriving at your door 10 years from now telling you they want to impose rules, regulations, tariffs, taxes on you because blah, 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 blah. So you got to stand for the republic, which is America, right? Because no matter where you run to, you're going to still find, whether it's intelligence running up the ladder of intelligence or something, you're going to go back to realizing we're still all connected. All right. And the third point is Your definition of extraordinary, I could actually agree with from the precision of language, because you're saying extraordinary, right? Now, what is ordinary? What does the word meaning mean? Why is it called meaning when we talk about words? Meaning is said to be meaning because meaning or mean is the average in mathematics, right? It's the middle point. So that's the most common usage, although it may not be true, right? So, ordinary, if we look at it like that, ordinary is average, right? So, extraordinary is anything above average. So, if we're looking at a scale of 0 to 100, then that means that 51, as soon as you become 50.015, you are now technically classified as extraordinary. But a person at a 50 ranking level out of 100 psychologically may not feel extraordinary when looking at 50 points away from being 100. Now, at the same capacity, equal opposite though, number 25 out of 100 is also not ordinary, although you wouldn't call that extra particularly, but it is the same. It is a particular distance away from ordinary, which means it is also non-ordinary or beyond ordinary in some direction. So there's a level of genius there too, in the same aspect of lazy people have great ideas for efficient processes, although society may judge them as being lazy because they're only a 25 out of 100 appearance on the energy scale, right? So that's my feedback from what you were saying there. I know that was a massive wave. What do you have to say?
Well, first of all, for lazy people, they're just not inspired.
No, they're efficient.
They're efficient. They're not.
Yes,
They're not inspired to put in some energy into something that somebody else can do.
they are. They're maximizing the energy into staying put.
But they can have some great ideas, but the great ideas, they don't exist in reality without people with great action, without people that put in those 50% of the effort to make things going. And then the people who put in that 70% of the effort, the extraordinary, some of their potential, some of their skills, some of their mindset, just put it in, get it to work. People that are passionate, at least portion of the time, those are the people that are driving us forward. And that's probably the top, maybe 1% of the population, maybe less, probably less. People
So
that actually take their energy and all their potential and just maximize it.
So what you're admitting indirectly is the value of teamwork and collaboration in society.
Yes, we do. We need that. Definitely.
See, that's why beauty's always in the eye of the beholder.
Your question,
Okay.
when do you stop exploring the world? So, first of all, you don't really stop exploring the world until you die, because you got your eyes open, you got your ears open. If you can sense something, you keep exploring it. Our brain is wired that way. We keep doing it. Every day we kill our brain, every day we rejuvenate it. So every day we wake up a different person, we keep exploring it, even
Mhm.
if we're not trying to do it. When, though, we're trying to do it, the time that we stop or pause of trying is when we get exhausted. When we get so stressed, when we get exhausted, when we have so many responsibilities, that's when we're like, okay, I need to close down some channels. I need to focus on something that I can bring myself together. Otherwise, I go haywire.
Mhm.
Yeah, something's gonna happen, something bad. So that's when you close it down, like close down the channels. Okay, too many sensations. That's what I do. I fall in depression. I have still so many sensations, so many things going on, and I just, okay, anime. Put it in front of me. Just focus on that. Avoid everything else.
And the
And
blanket.
yes, blanket, the anime, and that's it. That's my, okay. Let me stop the input of the world.
Right. So so that is high level genius recharging. See, that's your recharge, right? Because now what does that get you to do? It gets you uh elements of it allows you to decompress. Okay? This is why we can't judge other people. Like that's the issue is society's running around wanting to judge someone else's and their actions because they're looking for a cheap way to receive dopamine to make themselves feel better. Oh, it's something wrong with you. You're wasting time. You're wasting your life watching anime. They don't know you just fucking saved 500 people's lives, a company from going out of business. You put people in position to help this company do this project. And you know what? You're taking the weekend and watching anime because that was a 6-week project for you. They're gonna just see you watching anime or see something you post about how you like anime, and they're gonna think about you a certain way. That's their fault. But
Even
that's also
before,
what cripples society. Go ahead.
even before you're a super achiever, because before you're a super achiever, you're a super learner. You're a super learner, somebody who is intaking the world and taking the information and getting to the point where you can achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And even before then, you still need a way to decompress without a way to um, go into the negative habits that keep you there for a long time and make negative impact over you. The decompress and get back on track.
Right.
Those things.
So I want to get to your closing remarks, and I want to add this in the interim. So now that we've looked at that, right, the stressful situations in toxic workplaces in the United States jurisdiction, and people that work there, and even in owning a business. So now you come home, right? We talked about how the mind. There's no difference between what the mind experiences as thoughts and real life. So now people want to people are known to say, "Hey, I get this release when I bust guns, right? You bust them, hell yeah, we bust them. Do we bust them? Do they go right?" So America's like that, right? So now what happens is having a video game that allows you to go run around, bust all these guns, have all these access to these guns, shoot at people. It actually allows you to not shoot your boss at work because you get to come home, you get to shoot, simulate shooting. Yeah, 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 yeah. This is my boss. I'm gunning my boss. Right? This is what people are doing at these games. That's why they're so good, right? Don't get it twisted, United States. Okay. So then they get the sensation and that same feeling of being able to have that release, right? Without actually doing it in real life. Right? Genius application of detoxing. Closing remarks.
I agree. It's talking about the genius, the gift, and the curse is that when you have the capacity to intake so much information and to comprehend it and to go ahead and improve your own intelligence. Oh, I have no idea how AI is going to do it. They're probably, I don't know, if they're going to have stress. But we as people, we do need to detox and have both the genius that we become better,
Mm-hmm.
we make the people around us better, we make the world around us better, and we also have downfalls that people don't understand us, we feel rejected, we need to find ways to be able to communicate or to hold ourselves back from talking about something that we know that they wouldn't understand. And that isolation and that detoxification, some methods to be able to cope with yourself, because the genius can act in both ways. It can be positive and it can go negative. It can go attack. And being able to manage it inside of us, it's a challenging job to do.
I think that's a good way to end it because what it brings us to is the necessity for free flow. Remember, we talk about innovation stagnation. So whenever you block the flow, it's unhealthy, right? Like you don't want to be constipated for too long. It becomes a problem, right? So now, whether that's good shit or bad shit, you want it to flow, right? So it doesn't create a problem, and that's really the simplicity of life. We have to. We're only wanting to block it because of public appearance or feedback. What will other people think? So once we appreciate the free flow and allowing everybody to radiate and broadcast and shine, that's when our communities will truly be able to embrace the walk to becoming sustainable together. Irina, I appreciate your time today. Say bye to the people.
It was great seeing you again.
Always the perfect day. Pasha Paroh, Wine and Seven, Irina in the house. Thank you.